everybody. I welcome you all to this session on developing a Windows 8 application to explore SkyDrive files and folders. My name is Shivaranjani. I work with Nostis Information Technologies. So in this session I will be talking about developing a Windows 8 application to explore SkyDrive folders. These are the objectives for our today's session. We will be learning about live SDK SkyDrive APIs, and then we will be building a SkyDrive Explorer application using those APIs, and then we will learn about REST and create a REST server in .NET. So these are the chapters which we are going to cover today to achieve our objectives. Initially we will have a brief introduction to SkyDrive, and then we will create a new application and we will configure that application to access SkyDrive services, and then we will start with the application development, and then once we complete that my colleague Mr. Santanam will take over and he will talk about creating and using REST APIs in .NET. So these are the prerequisites to start our development. We need to have a Windows Store developer account. Then we need to have a SkyDrive account to test our application, and these are the libraries which we are going to use in our project. One is Live SDK library and the other one is Nostis Web APIs. We use this Nostis Web APIs to provide file viewing functionality for our application, and here is the download link. Through this you can download the demos used in this session. This is nostis.com/Basta Spring 2013. Now let us move on to the introduction part. So as we all know, SkyDrive is a file hosting service provided by Microsoft. Users can upload their documents onto SkyDrive cloud and they can access it from different devices. You can keep your files private or you can share it with people, and if you have any office documents in SkyDrive like Word or Excel, it allows us to edit them through a web browser using Office web apps. Microsoft also provides a native SkyDrive app for Windows 8. This native SkyDrive app cannot view several different document formats. It takes the help of installed application on our system, like to open a PDF file it takes the help of Windows Reader. So this is not very elegant, so we are going to try and address some of these limitations in the application which we are going to develop. So how do we use this, how do we access SkyDrive services from our application? To do that, Microsoft provides Live Connect APIs. So using these APIs we will be able to integrate our app with Live Connect services like Hotmail, Messenger and SkyDrive. These Live Connect APIs are based on REST architectural pattern, and it uses industry standard protocols like OAuth for authentication and JSON format for data interchange and so on. Microsoft also provides Live SDK library for Windows 8 applications. So this Live SDK library further simplifies our development work. So using this Live SDK library we can avoid direct calls to Live Connect REST APIs, and it also enables single sign-on capability for our application. So I will be talking more about single sign-on capability in the next part of our session. So Microsoft provides these Live Connect APIs to make our application to use those APIs. We need to establish trust between Live Connect and our application. Let us see how to do that. So in this part we will be creating a new application and we will be configuring that application to use SkyDrive services. So I am creating a new project. So I will be taking this Grid app as the base project to develop SkyDrive Explorer application. So this grid app project is suitable for representing grouped hierarchical data elements. So we need to give hierarchical folder structure in our application. So for that we are choosing this grid app as the base project. I have already created this grid app project just to save time. So this is a newly created project, and I'll be talking more about this project in the later part of our session. For now, we'll see how to enable this application to use Live Connect services. So to do that, we need to have Windows Store developer account. Once we have this account, we need to go to this Dev Center Windows Store Apps dashboard page. Here we have to select the submit an app option. So here either of the two things we can do. If we have already developed, if we have a complete application, ready application, we can submit it to Windows Store, or if we or we can reserve a name for our application which we will be submitting at a later point of time. So we will be choosing the second option, that is will be just reserving a name for our application. This takes us through a series of pages. In advanced feature page, we need to configure options related to push notification and live services to enable our application to use Live Connect services. So once we complete that phase, then we have to associate our newly created app with the one we have just created on the store. So here this is a very simple process. This Visual Studio provides built-in integration with Windows Store. What we need to do is we have to go to Solution Explorer and select the project. Right click on the project. Here we have the store option. We need to select this associate app with the store option. So once we select this, it asks us to sign in, and once we give our credentials, it will list down all the application name reserved for our account. So we need to choose the right one. Once we do this, then it will download some values related to local application manifest into our application. So this enables our application to use SkyDrive services. I'll not be doing that here because it's a bit straightforward. So so far we created a new application and we have associated this new application with the store, and now our application is able to access SkyDrive services. The next step is we need to install Live SDK library onto our system because it's not the part of .NET framework. So here is the download link. So it's already installed in my system. So what I do is I just need to add references to Live SDK into my newly created project. So I have to select this Live SDK from Windows Extensions category. So this will add reference to Live SDK. So far we have created a new application, and we registered our application to access SkyDrive services, and we have also installed Live SDK and referred it from our project. Now we will move on to application development part. So now let's think from bottom up fashion, like our application is completely ready and user has installed our application. So if user launches our application, what should happen? It should the first step is it should ask the user to sign into their Live SDK or SkyDrive account. Once they sign in, we will be showing their folder content and we will be allowing them to navigate through their folders and so on. So the first step for our application is we should enable user to sign into our application. So how do we do that? So before doing that, we need to consider a few things. Though our application has the privileges to access Live Connect services, it will not be able to access users data without their permission. User has to provide permission for our application to use their data from SkyDrive. So these permissions are known as scopes. If we go to Live SDK documentation, it has listed down several scopes and permissions. We need to choose the right one for our application. So let's see what are the scopes or permission needed for our application. First is we should allow single sign-on capability for our application. That means if user is already connected to any of the live services, we should not be asking the user to sign in again into our application, or if user is signed in to their device using Microsoft Live ID, we should not be asking them to sign in again to our application. So that is single sign-on capability. And the next scope is we should access users basic profile information. I will be talking about this later. And then since it is a SkyDrive Explorer application, we should be able to access users files and folders. These are the basic permissions needed for our application. So once we identify that, then the next step is we will initiate the sign-in process. So this Live SDK provides a class called Live Auth Client. This class has a method login async. So this method will take a list of permissions needed for our application, and it will instantiate the sign-in process. So to this method in our application we are passing this wl.signin. This is to enable a single sign-on capability for our application. And the next thing is wl.basic. This is to access users basic profile details. And the last one is SkyDrive, wl.SkyDrive. This corresponds to accessing SkyDrive files and folders. So once we make this call, and this is not a static method, just for the ease of understanding it is shown like this here. So we need to create an instance of Live Auth Client class, and then we have to call this method login async. So once we make this call from our application, it will throw up a dialog to the user, and it will ask the user to sign in to their SkyDrive account. So once user give their credentials, then the next next dialog is to check whether user grants or denies permission for our application. So as we can see here, for whatever permissions we request for, it has listed down all the items here. The first one is sign you in automatically, that is for a single sign-on capability, and the next one is to access user profile details, and the last one is to access user SkyDrive documents. So once user says yes, then we can proceed to get their data from SkyDrive and we can display it in our application. So just to recap, we created a new Grid app project, and we configured this project to use Live Connect services, and then we installed Live SDK onto our system and added reference into our project. Then we initiated sign-in process, and we got permissions from the user to access their data. So now let's move on to application development part. So once we get permissions from the user, so now it's the time to think about main features which we are going to provide from our application. So first we need to identify the features which we are supporting, and then we'll be seeing how to implement them. So for this project we'll be displaying, as soon as the user is signed in, it's nice to greet the user. So initially once user signs in, we'll be showing some welcome message. This serves two main purposes. The first one is it will make our application look friendly for the user, and the second one is that it will give the status message to the user saying that user is already connected to our application. And the next feature is will be allowing user to explore through their SkyDrive folders. And the last feature which we are going to provide is will be allowing file viewing capability in our application. So two major aspects of the project we need to consider here. The first one is the Live SDK APIs which we need to use to implement these main features, and the other one is application design aspect, that's about classes and GUI part. So now let's start with the Live SDK APIs. What APIs we need to use to implement these main features, and how to use them I will be explaining now. This Live SDK has a class called Live Connect Client. This class has several data access methods. GetAsync is one among them. This method takes a string parameter. We need to pass some resource path, and this method will return us the resources available at that particular location. So this is the only class which we are using to implement main features for our application. Earlier we used Live Auth Client class. Using that we could able to initiate sign in, and now we are using Live Client Connect class to implement main features for our application. So now let us see how to use these methods, this class, to implement main features. So first step is that we need to create an instance of Live Connect Client class. So once we create the instance, the first thing which we are going to do is, as soon as the user is signed in, we will be getting their basic profile details to display welcome message. So so this is the call which we are going to make to get users profile details. We are going to call this GetAsync method, and we pass me as the parameter. This me is a shortcut for currently logged in users profile information. So to display a greeting message we need user's name, so that will be available inside this profile details. So this will return us a dictionary object with key value pairs. It will have user's first name, user's local information, gender information, and so on. We just need to get their first name to display welcome message. So once user is signed in, we will be taking the user to the root folder content. So this is the call which we are going to make to get the contents of the root folder. So we are going to call GetAsync method. This time we are going to pass different parameters. The parameter is me/SkyDrive/files this time. So this will fetch us the contents of the root folder. So this will return us items iterator. Each item in the SkyDrive is will have a type saying whether it is a file or a folder, and each item is identified through some unique identifier. Whether it may be file or a folder, it will have some unique identifier associated with it. And also if it is an image file, we will get image URI. So we store all this information, and suppose if user wants to navigate to any other folder apart from root folder, let us see how to do that. Again we are going to make a call to GetAsync method. This time the parameter is folder ID. Each item will have a unique identifier. So we are going to pass that folder identifier here /files. This will return us the desired folder content. The format or return value is similar to the previous call. So using this we can allow navigation to any of the desired folder. So suppose user wants to view a file, just like in Internet Explorer. If they click on a file, double click on a file, it should open up. So how to provide this viewing functionality in our application? So if user wants to view a file, the first task is that we should download the file from SkyDrive. So this is the call which we need to make to download any file. So this background download async method of this Live Connect Client class we have to use, and we have to pass file identifier /content. This will download the desired folder content in the background thread. So these are the only APIs which we are going to use to implement main features for our application. So to recap, we started with a grid app project, and we configured that app to use Live Connect services. Then we install Live SDK onto the system, and then using Live SDK Live Auth Client class, we initiated sign in process, and then we listed on the main features for our application, and we have learnt about live SDK APIs which we need to use to implement those features. This is about so far we have learnt about live SDK APIs. Now let us move on to the application design part. So, to implement these features, how our classes and how our GUI has to be designed, we'll see that. So, let us go back to the IDE. We started with this grid app project. As I have told, this is good for representing grouped hierarchical data items. So, if I run this application, this is the this provides 3 different XAML pages, visual pages. So, if we run this application, this is the first page which will be shown. This first page will list down all the available groups with their items, and this is the second page view. Here we can see only a single group with its items, and this is the last page. So, for our SkyDrive Explorer application, we just need 2 visual pages. One is to represent folder content, and the other one is to show the file. So, other one will be a file viewer. So, we are going to choose the appropriate XAML pages from this grid app for our SkyDrive Explorer application. So, this page is group detail page. This we are going to choose and to represent folder view, and the other one is item detail page. So, this will show us this will be a file viewer. So, let me go back to the IDE now. So, here are the 3 XAML pages which we have just seen. So, in this group detail page is what we are going to use to display folder content, and this item detail page is what will represent a file viewer. So, we are going to choose these 2 pages from this, and we are going to remove the other page which we will not be using in our application. And I have done all this customization in SkyDrive Explorer application. So, this folder view XAML page is renamed from this group detail page. This group detail page is renamed to this folder view, and item detail page is renamed as file view XAML page. So how these pages are getting data? So, if we go to the standard grid app project, there is a data model folder. Under that we have this sample data source class file which has several data source classes. So, this sample data group is a class which represents the group which we have seen in the visual page, and sample data item is a class which represents an item which will be stored inside the group. So, these are the 2 major classes, and both these classes are derived from a common base class, that is sample data common. So, we have taken the same model and we have renamed this sample data source file as SkyDrive data source, and this sample data group is renamed to SkyDrive folder because it should hold the folder content. It represents a group, and this sample data item is renamed to SkyDrive file. So, these files are the items which will be stored inside the folder. So, both these classes are derived from SkyDrive common class. So, similar to this model. And this is another important class, sample data source. in grid app project, this sample data source is the class who is constructing this group and item hierarchy. So, this is the class who is fetching the data and constructing it. So, in our case we have taken this sample data source class and we renamed it as SkyDrive data source, and this class is the class which is communicating with live SDK library, and it is constructing corresponding folder and file structure for our application. Suppose there is a folder in SkyDrive, it will internally create a SkyDrive folder object, and if there is a file, it will create a file object. So, this SkyDrive data source is the class which is doing that operation, and you need to understand that all the UI elements in the visual pages are bound to the properties of these data source classes. I will not be going into binding in this session because of the time limitation. This is the visual representation of the classes which we have seen. SkyDrive file and folder both are derived from SkyDrive common base class, and this SkyDrive folder has items property which is holding items of a folder. And this SkyDrive data source class is communicating with live SDK library, and which is constructing all this internal folder hierarchy. So, let us go back to the code and see the task which this SkyDrive data source class is performing. So, the first step is, as soon as user launches our application, we should ask the user to sign into our application using their SkyDrive account. We have seen these APIs, live auth client. It is instantiating the object of this live auth client class, and then it is calling this login async method by passing the desired scopes. So, once user permits our application to use their data, then the status will be connected, and then we are going to create this live connect client object. So, this is the first step. This is to enable user sign in and get the permissions from the user, and the next step is, as soon as user is signed in, we will be showing a greeting message to the user. To do that, it has to fetch profile details. So, it is calling get async method on this live connect client object by passing me as the parameter, and it is just collecting the first name and constructing this welcome message property. The third task which this will perform is, as soon as the user is logged in, we have to take the user to the root folder content. So, we are going to call this get async method with me SkyDrive files as the parameters. This will return an item iterators that is pointing to the contents of the root folder. If the item type is folder, item stored inside the root folder, if the item type is folder, we are going to create a folder object, otherwise we are going to create a file object, SkyDrive file. So, the same way recursively we will construct the entire folder hierarchy. So, this SkyDrive data source also has a method download to download the file, but this will be used on demand. Whenever user wants to see a file, then only we will download the file in the background thread, and we will be displaying it. So, this is about the folder navigation, and now let us see how to display a file in our SkyDrive Explorer application. So, to display a file, first we need to download it locally. So, once we download in Windows 8 app, it is very easy to display any image because it provides built-in image control. So what we do is we'll make use of this feature. First we'll download the file, and we convert this downloaded document into set of images. Once we convert downloaded document into set of images, then it's very easy to provide file viewing functionality in our application. So to convert this file to set of images, we are making use of Gnosys web APIs in our application. So once we get this converted images, we are going to pass this converted image URIs to another XAML page, that is file view page. This file view page is constructed using a control called flip view. This flip view control is good for displaying one item at a time from the collection of items. So this flip view will be the container for images. So each page will be user can view the document one page at a time, and this also enables navigation between the pages. So let us see in the code how this navigation is happening. So this is folder view XAML file, and here we are handling item click event. If user selects a folder, we'll be navigating to the same page, folder view page, and we'll be passing the newly selected folder information. So the same page will be refreshed to show the new page content, new folder content. So if the item type is folder, we are going to navigate to the same file, that is folder view page. Otherwise, if the item type, if user clicks on a file, then what we do is this web APIs, that is Gnosys web API supports right now docx, PDF and TIFF format. First what we do is we download the file. So this data source class has a method to download the file stream. So this is again making the call to background download async of live SDK library, and here we pass the required folder ID and /content. This will download us the file. Once we download the file, we are converting the file into a set of images. Each page will be converted as one image, and we are loading this file view page by passing this converted image. These are all wrapped inside this object. So this document object will hold a set of images for any document. So if user selects to view any of these formats, it will be directly shown in our application. If the item is a photo, that is if user wants to view any image, so then it's very simple. We don't have to download the file locally. What we do is we get image URI from SkyDrive. So that same URI we are using to display if the file type is a picture file. So otherwise we are going to launch the downloaded file in the default associated application. So now let us run our application and see how it looks. So this is the SkyDrive Explorer application. So as soon as user launches this, it will ask user to sign in. Once I sign in, it is asking me whether I am going to grant permission or deny for this particular application. So this is showing all these 3 items which we wanted for our application, that is for single sign-on and then accessing profile details and for accessing SkyDrive documents. So I will say yes. So now so it is showing me a greeting message here, and then it took me to root folder content. So this is my root folder. I have documents, pictures and some other folder. So here if at all I want to view any picture, it's very straightforward. So I don't have to download, it will just take the URI from SkyDrive and it will display. So it's very fast here. Suppose if I want to view some other file, say I want to view this docx file, what I should do is first I should download this from SkyDrive, and then I should convert this downloaded file into set of images. It depends on the speed, depends on the internet connectivity and size of the file. Yeah. So this document has 7 pages, and this is shown through flip view control. So it is showing one page at a time. So this is the first page, second page, like this. This also allows navigation between the pages of the document. So this grid view sample application also supports this smooth navigation according to Windows 8 standards. So we are just making use of that in our application. So that's all from my side. Here are the references to Live SDK library and to learn more about Windows 8 application development. And you can download these applications through our website, that is nostis.com/bastaspring 2013. And yeah, thank you all. Now my colleague Mr. Santanam will continue to talk about creating and using REST APIs in .NET. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hello and welcome again. My name is Santanam. In this part of the presentation we are going to see what is REST, how to create a very simple Hello World REST API and use it, what are the challenges we might come across while developing real world REST API and how to overcome them. What is REST? REST stands for representational state transfer. It is an architectural style or pattern created for designing network based applications. It uses HTTP as the communication protocol. It is stateless, no session state is maintained on the server. It is resource based. What does it mean? What are resources? Let's take for example, there is a department store database connected to a web service. The web service serves the clients the requested information about the department store. So here the important entities of the database are products, customers, bills and so on. These are actually the resources on the server the client and server talks about. If we take for another example, document management system, we can say that documents are the resources on the server. Let's take our previous example, department store database. If products are the resources on the server, client asks the server, get me the details of the product with the product ID 123. Server sends the details of the product. Here the details of the product is the representation of the resource. The representation is usually in XML or JSON format. It can also be plain text, HTML and so on. client requests for operations on the resources at the server. The operations are always any one of create, read, update or delete. These operations are corresponding to HTTP verbs post, get, put, delete. That is, create operation corresponds to post HTTP request, and read operation corresponds to HTTP get request, and so on. Resources are identified by URIs. This is very important point. We will understand this point better when we look at the Hello World REST API example. It's a quick recap of what we have learned so far. We have a REST client and REST server here. The client sends the request, and it requests for read operation on the resource at the server. Since REST uses HTTP as the protocol, it sends the HTTP request as the object. Since operation is read operation here, it corresponds to HTTP get request. Server sends back the details of the product or details of the response. Here the response is in JSON format. JSON is nothing but JavaScript object notation, which is nothing but a string with a set of key value pairs. Before going into developing Hello World REST API, I would like to know how many of you have used real world REST APIs. Can I get a poll on that? How many of you have developed REST APIs? Okay, so I hope this session will be useful for you. Let me switch to Visual Studio IDE. Before actually we develop a REST API, I would like to run the already created project to understand better what are the important things we have to consider while creating a REST API server. Let me run this, and there are several ways wherein we can test the real world REST APIs without actually creating a client application. So there are browser plugins available such as Advanced REST Client for Chrome browser, Fiddler for IE browser, and so on. We can also use stress testing tools such as Apache JMeter and so on. So for our demonstration we will be using Advanced REST Client plugin for Chrome. Here we know the URL. We will copy this, we'll paste it here, and according to our REST API, this is the URI for the resource, and we are making HTTP GET request because we are reading for the resource details of the resource greeting here. Let me just send this request. Here it is. We got the response in the response window. So now there are two things we need to understand. So one is, as soon as we make the request, how it is going to the server, and how it is getting this welcome good morning message. So we have seen that REST is based on resources. So here our resource is greeting, and also we have seen that resources are identified by URIs. So this is the URI. From this URI, server is able to identify the resource from this URI, and it is able to send the appropriate response to the client. We'll go to the Visual Studio IDE. We'll create a new project. For this application we are using ASP.NET MVC4 Web Application project type. Let me give a name for this project. Test REST API server is the name, and we will select Web API as the project template here. Project is getting created with default classes and router information. Here it is. So we can see that there are some classes which are getting created by default. So these are the classes we don't need, so we can remove all these classes. And we have seen that REST is based on resources. It is resource based. So every resource on the server requires a controller class to handle all incoming requests such as HTTP post, HTTP GET requests. So we will add a resource by right clicking on the controller, add and controller. Here our controller is greeting. We'll create empty API controller here. Now we need to know another important class, which is a web API config file. Now we have a resource which is a greeting in this project. Now we need to know who identifies the resources based on the URI. It is the web API config class, which is getting created with some default routing settings. So in this file, a route template parameter specifies the pattern of the incoming request URIs. So after the base URI, which is localhost 43243, the URI should begin with API slash and the name of the controller, which is nothing but the name of the resource in this example, which is greeting in this example, followed by an optional ID parameter. Now we'll go to the greeting controller class. We have made a HTTP GET request, so we should be able to handle the HTTP GET request here. And we have seen that server returns HTTP response message as the object. So return type will be HTTP response message here, and our method name is get. We'll create a HTTP response message object. We will set a simple string content as the content of the response. And we will return the response. We will run this. And this project, when we were creating, it was created with some default views, so that's the reason we are not able to see any pages in this project. But if we request for the resource, we will be able to get the response. Here it is. Now we will see how to create a REST client application using ASP.NET. Let me close this IDE. I have already created this project, and in this project, this project has been created using ASP.NET MVC4 Web Forms application project type, and let me set this as the default project. In this project, I have added index.axpx page, so which has a push button and a label. So in this push button event, we are going to send our GET request to the server and receive the response, and the response message will be set as the text for the label control. I hope you are able to see the code. This is the request URI that we are passing to the server. So here we create object of HTTP client, and we call getAsync to post to send our request. We are using this getAsync method and passing the request URI, and we wait for the result, which returns the HTTP response message object. So from the response object, we get the string content and store it in the string variable here, and the string variable is assigned to the text property of the label here. We will run this example. me click on this. Yeah, that's the response. Real world APIs are always very simple. It does not involve any business logic. It can serve any number of clients with immediate response. If we take real world, in case of real world APIs, it involves business logic such as file processing, image processing, information retrieval from database. So in such cases, serving hundreds of thousands of client requests with immediate response is almost not possible. So we'll see this with an example image processing with web API server that we have created, which all it does is it takes an image from the client, it converts it to black and white image, and it sends the converted image URI as the response. Let me run this project first. This is the URI to which we need to send our request. And we are going to create an image resource on the server by sending the file to the server. So hence here the request type should be HTTP post. Sorry. Let me select a file which should be converted to black and white image. Let me open this file. This is my son Santosh. So I'm going to send this file to the server. Let me select the content type of multi-part form data, and server sends back the response with the uploaded image URI. So we will use this image URI, which is our uploaded image resource on the server, and we will make another post request to specify the image operation that should be performed on this particular image. So we will specify JSON request object. We have seen that JSON is nothing but a plain string with key value pairs. Here we specify the URI, image URI, on which the operation should be performed, and we have to specify the type of operation. Here we sending this as the JSON request with the post HTTP request. So the content type should be application/JSON. We will send this request. Server receives the request and it is processing on our request, and finally it sends back the converted image URI as the response. We will use this URI and see our converted image file. It has downloaded. You can see that it has been converted. What is important to note here is that for such a small image, it took almost 10 seconds to process the request and send the response. Here the response time depends on the size of the image. So hence for larger images it takes longer processing time. So you can imagine what will happen when there are 1,000 such requests are sent to the server. Server can become non-responsive when all its CPUs are occupied with all lengthy processing tasks. As a result, since the client request cannot wait beyond the request timeout period, the request will time out, which is not acceptable, and it is not practical for a real world web API. And the solution is we have to develop asynchronous web API, and we have to take care of load balancing. We will see how to what does it mean and how to develop such web API. Asynchronous web API is developed based on request acknowledge poll pattern. Client requests for an operation, immediately receives the acknowledgement saying that the operation is getting performed on the server, and it keeps polling till it gets the final response. We will see we will be able to understand the other details when we show the example. Asynchronous Web API has 4 components: client, web service, that is our web API server, and simple queue data structure to queue up all incoming request objects, and a request processor. Request processor could be a background worker thread or a pool of thread that pops the request messages from the queue and processes. So in this way, we can solve the timeout problem using asynchronous Web API. But we need to solve the server load balancing problem now. So here, because here let's say server is getting several requests, and since we have a request processor which is a pool of thread running on the same CPU process on the web API server, and so the client request, it will immediately get the acknowledgement for the operation that is getting performed on the server, but the waiting period for each client request will be minutes or hours together. In order to overcome this problem, we need to introduce message queuing server in the place of simple queue data structure. The messages in the message queue server can be shared between different machines, and in the place of request processor, we will be having multiple instances of the request processor application running on different machines, so which will share the message queue server, and it will process the request objects. This picture shows how asynchronous Web API works using message queuing. Here we have client, server, and message queue as the middleware, and request processor as the business logic. As soon as we start the request processor, it starts listening to the request queue. So as soon as client sends the request, server sends the request message to the request queue, and immediately it acknowledges the client, specifying that the request has been accepted for processing. As soon as there is a message available in the request queue, request processor will pop the message. It immediately moves the message to in progress queue, and it processes the request. Once it has completed the processing, it will remove the message from in progress queue, and it will put the final response in the response queue. So what happens when some request is getting processed? Client requests for the client polls for the status of the operation. So that time server will check whether the requested tracking ID request object is available in the response queue. If it is available, it will be immediately sent to the client. If it is not available in response queue, then it will check whether the requested status is available in the in process queue or request queue. If they are available, it will send the response to the client saying that the job is in progress. Microsoft provides message queuing service. So in the place of message queuing middleware, we will be using Microsoft MSMQ. It is short form from MSMQ, and you can visit this link for the installation instructions. We will see how to use Microsoft message queue, how to create a queue on message queue server, and how to send and receive messages from the message queuing server. Let me just go to Visual Studio. We will take our synchronous image processing web API server, and we will see where to include this message queue server logging in order to make it as a asynchronous web API server. In this synchronous image processing web API server, we have images controller. Here we have post method, which is responsible for accepting the HTTP post request. So here we have posted the image. By selecting the image, we have posted to this URI. As soon as client sends the image, it will come to the post method, and it will check whether the content type is multipart form data or it is application/JSON. So after uploading the image to the server, client requests for the conversion operation using the JSON request. So that time request comes to this if condition, and it processes the JSON request. So here we have to actually create a queue on the message queue server and send our operation request to the request queue, and we have to send the acknowledgement to the client saying that with the job ID to track the message in the message queue server. Here we are creating my test queue under the private queues folder. I will just show you how to view the message queue folders in MSMQ. We'll right click computer, manage. It opens computer management window, expand services and applications. Here you can see message queuing. In this example, we will be creating queues and sending and receiving messages under private queue folder. In this code snippet, we are creating my test queue under private folder. Dot represents the local system. Here it checks whether the queue already exists or not. If it doesn't already exist, it creates using message queue.create static method. If it is already existing, it creates instance of message queue object by pointing to the already existing queue. Here we are creating a new message and setting the label and body content of the message, and we call send method on message queue by passing the message to the message queue server. For receiving the message, we have to specify how that message should be interpreted while receiving the message. So here we are setting the formatter to format the message as string message while receiving it. So here we call receive on my queue message queue object. So it waits till there is a message available in the queue, and it receives and stores the message in the message object, and we can use the body property of the message to process the request. And we can finally call close method while application exists. Now it's time to see the asynchronous version of image processing web API using MSMQ. Let me run the project. Here we have two projects. One is the REST API server and the request processor application. So request processor application will monitor the queue, message queue server, and when there is a operation request, it gets the operation, it performs it, and it sends the response to the response queue. We'll set this as the startup project. We'll run this. Now server is ready to take the responses, take the request, client request. Now we will start the request processor application. We will use advanced REST client Chrome plugin to test this. We will use this URI to send our request. We'll choose a file. We'll use the same image file. We'll select multipart form data as the content type that we are sending to the server. We'll send it. and this is the image URI that we have to use to do our conversion operation. We will specify the operation that needs to be done on this image resource. There is some error, we'll refresh this. We have to send this request as application JSON as the content type. Now we got the job ID. This is the job ID. It is pointing to the job/job ID, and you can see that content location is having the complete absolute URI for this job ID. We can use this link to track the status of the operation that is getting executed on the server. Now the operation has already been completed. We will send this request once again to see that the operation is getting processed on the server. We'll send this request once again. We will click this. You can see that job in progress message. I keep refreshing this window, and once job is completed, it sends the final response to the client. This is the references for further study. That's all we have for this session. Thank you for attending.